Mr. Don deBar in on this. How do you see the events that have taken place? It seems that they have changed very rapidly. And when we talked to a lot of our people on the ground in Tripoli, they were also quite taken aback at the speed of which everything changed in Tripoli especially.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be in touch. I'm sorry for looking dressed casual. I've been up all night, as a matter of fact, in touch with people on the ground in Tripoli who somehow were able to stay on the internet and stay in touch. And almost all of the reporting that's coming from there is coming from inside a hotel that the reporters can't leave. One reporter was shot at trying to post a press sign out in front. Several have been threatened by the Western journalists in the building with death. There was an article published calling for the killing of a French journalist from a website in France and the Voltaire website, and Lizzie Phelan, who you have featured here before. So the information itself, a lot of it is coming from people pointing a camera out the window of the hotel. And the information that has come to me from some of the people on the ground there, including Lizzie Phelan, has come from calling around to the contacts that they've nurtured in Tripoli over the last month that she's been there, and reports from different neighborhoods. And those reports are quite different. Keep in mind that since Friday, the Western media has been saying that Gaddafi left the country. They were reporting him in Tunisia on Friday afternoon on NBC, and this was parroted in the Western media all weekend. Now today, again, somehow he's back in Tripoli, and they're trying to find him, and they've arrested his sons. And so the information itself is suspect. But this entire war, people have to think about this fact. The United States has been funding this and conducting the bulk of the military operations here. And anyone on the ground anywhere where the United States has their guns pointed, including at Tehran, that takes comfort in the fact that the United States is about to achieve a military victory in Libya should really reconsider that position and think about what's the next step going to be for this type of policy, which, believe me, has a map. And they express Tehran as a destination now for the last 25 years. So I would be mostly concerned about what does this mean for the people that these guns will be pointed at next. And I would question every report you're hearing out of Tripoli right now that says that they're in charge, because they've been saying it for days before there was anyone there. Last point is that the reports that we got were that the people that had come into Tripoli from the outside with arms were actually Qataris, and they're with their own commanders running this operation. And I'm told there are many dead Qataris on the ground in Tripoli.
Now, Don deBar, you mentioned as far as the role of the media. Let's expand on this in general. How do you see the role in general, especially in this situation that's taking place in Tripoli from the beginning till today, as far as the role of the mainstream media and how they have reported the events that have taken place?
Okay, the enabling rhetorical point is that this is a popular uprising against Gaddafi. Okay, and from there it was that the government is brutalizing protesters, including with aerial bombardment, and that was the enabling narrative for resolutions 1970 and 1973 out of the United Nations Security Council. Now, the Russians, who conduct satellite surveillance of planet Earth, because they've been prepared for 50 years for a nuclear strike from the United States, said on the specific dates that the charges were delineated that Gaddafi had attacked his people from the air. Here are the photographs. There are no planes in the air. There were no aerial activities conducted whatsoever. This has not made the media in the West at all, including on programs like Democracy Now! And on Al Jazeera, which is carried on progressive radio networks, if you can believe that, in the United States. In addition to that, it was reported in the Pakistan Observer, the English language daily in Pakistan, on February 25th, that there were U.S., U.K., and French troops that landed in Benghazi from Indian naval vessels on the 23rd and 24th of February. Now, this is in advance of the UN Security Council resolutions, and that also has never been reported, and I personally reported both that and the Russian intelligence information to Amy Goodman at Democracy Now!, for example, and other progressive media outlets here, and have yet to hear them even set it up as a straw man to shoot down, let alone actually report these things that were reported elsewhere, including from government officials, the foreign minister and defense minister of Russia. So the media has been not just deficient, but in my mind, active and complicit with this effort by NATO to take the oil of Libya and to establish for anyone that doesn't do what the United States tells them, you're next.
What about that, John? If the Gaddafi regime has totally fallen or will fall, how likely is it that the Libyan people will actually go further towards independence and being a freer people, as a lot of them who have been in the streets, they've been showing some of them today, are saying? What's the likely scenario in your perspective?
The likely scenario is colonialism. And the reason for the invasion of Libya is that Libya was one of the places organizing against colonialism of the continent of Africa. This is the second stop for AFRICOM, the first direct stop for AFRICOM under Obama's regime. AFRICOM came online about 2 months before he was elected. But after Côte d'Ivoire, where they carried the elected president out of the country at gunpoint, the French did, the former colonial power, this episode began. And Libya has played, if you want to believe Nelson Mandela, Libya played a major role in ending apartheid in South Africa. And Muammar Gaddafi, in particular, played a major role in doing that. He's been active in building a communications infrastructure and a financial infrastructure owned by Africa in Africa. The people of Libya, by the way, went from being the poorest people on the planet in 1969 by every objective measure to having the highest standard of living in Africa and one of the highest standards of living in the Muslim world. The housing is owned by the people, free of any mortgages. Everyone. It's a human right there under the law.
All right, Don, I am so sorry to interrupt you.
The entire education system and
Don,
healthcare
we're out
free.
of time. I appreciate it. I'm sorry we are out of time, but I'd like to thank all of our guests. And from New York, anti-war activist and journalist, Mr. Don deBar. Thank you all for being with us, and thank you, viewers, for being with us. Join us, same time, same place tomorrow. Another close-up look at one of tomorrow's headline stories. I'm Marzia Hashemi signing out for myself and all the crew here in Tehran. Thank you and goodbye.